Gotcha. Hello everyone and welcome to another Iceborne videos. Today we're going to be talking about my top 6 tips for grinding the guiding lands. The more I play, the more it becomes apparent that the guiding lands are incredibly grindy. You're going to spend a lot of time there trying to obtain even just access to the correct monster that you need to fight so that you can get the correct materials for augmenting your weapons and for crafting the correct armor sets and crafting the correct weapons. So you're going to be spending a lot of times in the guiding lands trying to reach master rank 100 and getting your guiding lands leveled up to level 7. So I have a lot of information in this video. These are going to be really good tips. I think you're going to enjoy them. We're going to start out by talking about tips that help you level up your guiding lands. This takes an incredibly long amount of time. The reason why is even after you've unlocked level 7 by reaching master rank 100, even after you've done that, you actually have to work it up to level 7. And when I was doing research on this, when I was actually checking it out, experimenting, you could do a whole bunch of work. You could capture a monster, and when you reported the investigation to the handler, it shifted that research bar by the smallest amount. You really have to kill a crazy number of monsters in order to max out all the way to level 7. So having some tricks for doing this faster is going to be really important to you, which is, again, is why I think you're going to enjoy these tips. So tip number 1, there's a capture exploit going on right now in the guiding lands. In the future, this might be obsolete. Okay, so maybe you do a little Google search and make sure it's not obsolete. Maybe you ask in the comment section. Basically, the way it works, you and your friends are going to get a monster in the capturable range, meaning they're almost dead. And then one person's going to stay behind while everyone else disconnects, right? They're going to disconnect from the internet, and then they're going to be in their own session by themselves. And what'll happen is they'll go ahead and capture that monster. Then they're going to reconnect their internet, join back up with that guy. He's still going to be standing there. There's no time limit when you're playing the guiding lands, right? There's no timer. So you're going to join back up with that guy. You know, maybe he has his character go a little AFK. Maybe he runs in a circle. I don't know. Maybe he just gathers ore or something like that. You join back up with him, and then you disconnect again. And you have your own version of that capturable monster all over again, right? So this is a really good exploit because every time you capture that monster, 2 things happen. You get a lot of experience, and you actually get quite a bit of research in that area of the guiding lands, which is why I believe Capcom will definitely patch this out. So I don't know how much time you have to exploit this. I highly recommend exploiting it while you can, okay? So the capture method, it will help you get your master rank up. It'll help you get your level up in the guiding lands. Now the capture exploit is going to be the fastest method until Capcom patches it. And then the second fastest method is going to be trapping a monster over and over and over and over again. All right, so you're going to create a loadout where you have all the materials to create new traps, and then you're just going to place a trap down on the monster, and when he breaks out, you craft a new trap and you place it down. You do this over and over again. And you can do that right next to a camp if you lure the monster over to the camp, and your teammates can do this with you as well. So you're all rotating your traps down, and the monster really doesn't go anywhere too fast. It sounds expensive at first. It's kind of not. It's more like it's just tedious. Because what you can do is you can have at your garden, your botanical research center, you can just have that area, you know, growing the parts you need, and then you can buy the trap tools. So, you know, maybe if you're very new to the game, this is too expensive for you, but the average player who's put a few hours in, they're going to have everything they need to spam these traps. Just capture the monster over and over again. It's very, I want to say tedious and boring, but it is quite fast. Like, I've compared it to A, killing a monster, and I've compared it to B, doing nothing but track farming, and the trap spam's technically faster. What will surprise you is even after doing this for a while, your experience bar is still only going to shift a little bit for whichever area you're leveling. And this is just because that area requires so much experience, so much research in order to level it up, right? So, you know, for those of you who don't quite understand what's going on here, is the research points that are leveling up the area. When you capture a monster, when you put it in a trap, you get 25 points, and then every time you put down another trap, you're just going to get another 25 points. There's no cap on it, right? There's no like limit to the number of times you can do it. So you just trap them over and over and over again. You're not killing them, you're just trapping them, and this is actually not, this is, in my opinion, the fastest method, because you're getting like 25 points every time you do it, and you just do it like 3 or 4 times, and then you go back to the camp, you come back. All right, so I've taught you the capture exploit, where you disconnect with a friend. I've taught you about the trap spam, where you put traps down over and over again. There's a third tip for leveling up. This is for people who just want to kill the monster, right? Because the truth is you actually do need some of the materials. Maybe you just really don't like those other two methods, or you can't afford the traps and the other one's been patched out. Whatever the case is, let's say you're just going to go in and kill monsters or capture monsters. There's a few tips. First of all, once again, it comes down to capture points. So what you really want to be aiming to do is break all of the monster's parts. Okay, when you break a monster part, you actually gain research, and that's really important. In fact, if you have tracks that you're analyzing, right, analysis research or whatever it's called for unlocking a monster that you can lure out, you'll notice sometimes when you break a monster's parts that's when the progress is made, right? So break all of that monster's parts, and then at the end of the fight, be sure that you also capture that monster, right? Because when you capture monsters, it just shortens the duration of the fight. So be sure you have your trank bombs, be sure you have your traps and backup materials to craft another one if it goes wrong. The other tip I want to give you, though, is that you should be gathering tracks. Gathering tracks gives you experience, and when a monster leaves kind of like a large track behind, you know what I'm talking about, the one where you got to pop your little file open and scrape the ground with a knife, that one actually gives you 25 points, which is the same amount you get when you put a monster in a trap. So you'll want to gather all of those rather than ignoring them, which is what I normally would do. I would just ignore them, but they actually give you decent experience for leveling up that area. So do that. The last thing I want to talk about, tip number 4, is be sure to run around that area, gather all the bones, gather all the ore, that you might need. And those level up, by the way. I didn't know that. They level up between like multiple stages, and so they'll start out as really small, they get larger, they got really valuable exclusive bones and ore inside of there. But what's most important is occasionally they get replaced by signs of a turf war, right? And you want those signs of a turf war ahead of time, because it's nice to have it before you start fighting that monster, because you can level up that signs of a turf war, and of course when you finish leveling that up, you unlock a monster that you can lure out, and being able to lure out the monster that you want to fight in the area that you want to fight him in, it's really valuable. So get those turf war signs, be sure to look for those. If you find a turf war sign that's the same kind that you already own, you might not know this, it actually goes ahead and levels that up. The other thing you might not know is that when you gather bones and you gather ore, you actually can be given a turf war sign analysis, right? You can be given an analysis from that. I've had this happen. Okay, so I suspect that when you gather bones and ore, it also contributes towards something in that area. That's my suspicion. All right. Oh, and by the way, as an extension of talking about gathering tracks and gathering signs of a turf war, I'm going to talk about one experience I had where just gathering tracks was giving okay experience. So I had this experience where there was a pink Raytheon and a savage Deviljho together in the Coral region, and I just gathered both of their tracks the entire time. And because there were 2 of them there, they were actually leaving a lot of tracks behind. So I didn't really have to fight them. I could just ghillie mantle around and gather tracks the whole time. So you could probably put together a build for kind of hiding and moving quickly and gathering tracks, and you could use that to just gather tracks sometimes. It's an option. It's not quite as exciting as fighting them, but it's certainly an option. Tip number 5, let's assume that you're all done getting your guiding lands to level 7. Congratulations, it's a lot of work. Most of you who clicked on this video probably have not done that yet. You've got your guiding lands to level 7 now though. Maybe you used the exploit, maybe you did trap spam, whatever. Now you want to fight the correct monster. It turns out that, Silver Rathalos is a thing, Gold Raytheon is a thing, and you want to fight those specific monsters. Brute Tigrex is a thing, Scarred Garuga, but they're not showing up. They're not showing up. Puki Puki's showing up. What the hell, right? Maybe you want to fight a Tempered Elder Dragon that shows up, who's really valuable. How do you get these guys to show up sooner? There was an exploit where you could go to the training room, have the objects moved. This would cause the screen to do one fast load, and it would rotate the monsters in the guiding lands. So one of the things you have to understand about guiding lands is that it really is just an advanced expedition. It's like a different expedition mode that Capcom designed to be more endgame-ish, right? So what I discovered is if you travel onto an expedition in a different map, this will actually rotate the monsters you're getting in the guiding lands. So if you just pick 2 maps, who cares? Coral Highlands and Rotten Vale, right? Let's say those 2. If you travel back and forth between them, you can open your map and actually check and see what's at the guiding lands every time you travel. So you can still rotate through the monsters in the guiding lands before you depart to the guiding lands. It's just that now you got to go through a longer load screen, obviously, because when you travel between Coral Highlands and Rotten Vale, the load screen's much longer. And we're talking about the maps, not the regions in the guiding lands. We're talking about the actual maps. You're going back and forth between these 2 maps. Guiding Lands is updating every time you do this. Eventually you see Gold Raytheon and you're like, heck yeah, now I'm going to go to the Guiding Lands, and you're going to get that Gold Raytheon when you depart for it. I feel like this last tip was really worth mentioning. So another thing we've known about the Guiding Lands for a little while is that you can't really level up all 4 areas to level 7. What happens is when you level up one area, the other one goes down, but you can get mostly 2 areas done. You can level up 2 areas. And then you have access to the end game monsters in those 2 areas. So tip number 6 is to have a list of friends who have the exact opposite of the areas that you do leveled up in the Guiding Lands, and then the 2 of you just trade off between all of the monsters that you're looking for. So yes, you can look for SOS flares. I've tested this a number of times in private. The problem with SOS flares is everyone wants in when it's a really good monster that's being looked for, like Gold Raytheon. Everyone wants in, so those fill up very quickly. And very often also, you can go in and they're either done fighting the monster or they're just not fighting the monster that was advertised. So it can say, yeah, there's a Silver Rathalos going on in this one. You join it, you go through this long load screen, and there's no Silver Rathalos. They're just looking for him, or maybe they already defeated him. So have a friend who you can talk to, you can text, whatever the case is, and tell him which 2 areas you're getting. He should get the 2 opposite areas, and then you're covering all 4 of the rare monsters: Garuga, Brute Tigrex, Silver Rathalos, Gold Raytheon, right? And by the way, you can do this. We have a Discord server. It's a fantastic LFG Discord server for Monster Hunter World Iceborne. We have 21,000 members in it. I'll leave a link to that in the comment section. There's always a link to it in the description of all my videos. I'd be happy to have you join, and you can find people for grinding the Guiding Lands there. They watch my videos. They know my tips, so you kind of have an advantage. They already know what I'm talking about. And finally, you guys are getting the bonus tip today. So we have a really valuable piece of data, not written by me. This was made by, correct me if I'm wrong, Cons OA, and he shared it on Reddit. This is going to contain a lot of information, this Google document, including charm upgrades, materials you need for the augment system, Guiding Lands monster drops, Guiding Lands gathering nodes, and some information on level 4 decorations. Alright, so there's a really useful piece of information. I'm going to be leaving a link to this in the comment section. You should all say thank you to Cons for sharing such terrific information with the Monster Hunter community. And that's the end of my top 6 tips for grinding in the Guiding Lands. If you enjoyed the video, let me know. You could leave a like on the video, you could share the video. I want to thank you all for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.